For the part that I have played, and I take responsibility for putting the city through a very bad time, again, I apologize to all of you. Certainly was never my intention to be a mayor who went out like this.
San Diego Mayor Bob Filner is apologetic, then defiant as he agrees to resign. I'm Dwayne Brown. Full coverage of the mayor's resignation tonight on KPBS Evening Edition. Hello, good evening. After weeks of controversy and accusation, San Diego Mayor Bob Filner is resigning effective in 1 week. It's part of a settlement deal connected to a sexual harassment lawsuit filed by his former communications director. She is one of 18 women who accused the mayor of making unwanted sexual advances. Our coverage begins with a look at the deal. Senior news editor Mark Sauer joins us from the News Center. Mark, give us the high points of what the council unanimously agreed to in today's historic settlement.
Well, Dwayne, the key point, of course, is that Bob Filner steps down as mayor at 5 p.m. next Friday. The city will pay for and provide his legal defense against the lawsuit filed by his former aide, Irene McCormick Jackson, and claims by other city employees or contractors. But taxpayers will not pay for Filner's defense in any criminal cases that could arise, either from unwanted sexual advances or dealings with contractors, including the controversial Sun Road case.
And Filner can also hire his own lawyers at city expense.
Yes, but the deal has a cap of $98,000 for those attorney fees. City Attorney Jan Goldsmith noted the city paid $5 or $10 million on attorney fees for council members several years ago during the SEC investigation.
KPBS Senior News Editor Mark Sauer. Filner says the resignation is the toughest decision of his life. Here now a portion of his statement before council.
Obviously, this is not a happy time for any of us, not for the city of San Diego, not for those who represent, and for my own part in causing all this, I offer a deep apology, certainly to all the citizens of San Diego and through you to the citizens that you represent. The city should not have been put through this, and my own personal failures were responsible, and I apologize to the city. I have a lot of supporters out there.
Thank you, Bob.
I apologize to all of you. I think I let you down. We had a chance to do a progressive vision in the city for the first time in 50 years. As I'll say later, we need you to carry that vision forward. This is not the time to let it die. But I apologize to all of you. I would like to say especially to my former fiancée, Bronwyn. I love you very much. You came to love San Diego as much as I did, and you did memorable things in the short time that you were First Lady. And I personally apologize for the hurt that I have caused you, Bronwyn. To all the women that I offended, I had no intention to be offensive, to violate any physical or emotional space. I was trying to establish personal relationships, but the combination of awkwardness and hubris, I think, led to behavior that many found offensive. I again, as I have in the past, sincerely apologize to all of you, and I will try to make amends in any suitable manner. So for the part that I have played, and I take responsibility for putting the city through a very bad time, again, I apologize to all of you. Certainly was never my intention to be a mayor who went out like this. Now, I have to caution the council about one thing, and I guess the city. You know, I started my political career facing lynch mobs. And I think we have just faced one here in San Diego. And you're going to have to deal with that. In a lynch mob mentality, rumors become allegations. Allegations become facts. Facts become evidence of sexual harassment, which have led to demands for my resignation and recall.
Without evidence.
Not one allegation, members of the council, has ever been independently verified or proven in court. I have never sexually harassed anyone. But the hysteria that has been created, and many of you helped to feed, is the hysteria of a lynch mob. Now, as I said, I faced lynch mobs many times when I was younger. No evidence was needed. The mob knew who was guilty. Who needed due process? Well, ladies and gentlemen, democracy needs due process.
That was San Diego Mayor Bob Filner earlier today announcing his resignation in light of sexual misconduct allegations. And after reaching a deal with the city, we have the speech in its entirety on our website, kpbs.org. Now, the sexual harassment suit is just one of the legal troubles Filner may be facing tonight. Our media partner 10 News reports he is under investigation by the state attorney general's office as well. The report quotes sources close to the investigation who say the resignation will not affect it. State investigators have been working with the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, which is running a hotline to take complaints against the mayor. And the woman who sued Filner for sexual harassment, Irene McCormick Jackson, issued a statement after today's meeting saying she's relieved and telling Filner, quote, "You will not be missed," end quote. Now, the reaction to Filner's resignation continues to trickle in tonight. KPBS investigative reporter Amitha Sharma joins us from the News Center. Amitha, the sexual harassment accusations lodged against the mayor started 5 weeks ago. In fact, you were one of the first to actually report this when former City Councilwoman Donna Fry and lawyers Marco Gonzalez and Corey Briggs held that news conference calling on Filner to step down because of the mistreatment or alleged. What's their reaction to tonight's news?
Well, Dwayne, they said that they felt a sense of relief that this horrible chapter in the city of San Diego's history has come to a close. And they said they felt some satisfaction for the part they played in reaching this point. They praised the women who have come forward. They said, quote, "They are the heroes and we cannot thank them enough for their efforts." They also reiterated what they had said back in mid-July when they first held that press conference, that they went public with their accusations because breaches of public trust and abuse of political power violate this community's values.
And Amitha, you also spoke with retired Rear Admiral Ronnie Froman, one of the other women who came forward with claims of sexual harassment by Filner. What did she have to say about the resignation?
She said she had started to feel sorry for Filner in recent weeks until his speech today, during which she says he came across as apologetic for his conduct, but then painted himself as a victim of a lynch mob. Froman characterized the speech by Filner, a former congressman, as a, quote, Filner buster. She says it's obvious he still doesn't get what he did or the effect his behavior had on women. And also, feminist attorney Gloria Allred also released a statement saying, quote, "Today is a day of reckoning for Mayor Filner and a day of vindication for his many alleged victims. Though Mayor Filner still continues to live in his own reality and deny responsibility for the conduct which we allege in our lawsuit, the fact is that he has done what was absolutely needed."
KPBS reporter Amitha Sharma. Today's resignation will make Council President Todd Gloria the interim mayor. Gloria will or rather he says he will immediately order a top-down review of city departments and go to work on a backlog of what he describes as public records requests. We've also received statements from some other council members. 5th District Council member Mark Kersey writes, "Now our city workers will be rid of this man who broke their trust and abused his power." And while 7th District Councilman Scott Sherman was out of town, he still sent this message. For some analysis, he sent this message: "Truly believe that ratifying this agreement is what's right for the citizens of San Diego." Now for some analysis and a look at what we can expect as we move forward, we go to Allison St. John with her guests. She's in for Peggy Pico tonight.
So the mayor has resigned, and we had a day of testimony at City Hall with San Diegans divided over what some saw as a kind of Faustian bargain with the mayor. And that led up to the council vote in closed session to approve the deal, immediately followed by the mayor's resignation speech. My guest, Brian Adams of San Diego State University, is here to help us digest all this, along with legal analyst Dan Eaton. Thank you both very much for being here.
Happy to be here.
So Dan, let's just start with you. The mayor's speech. What was the main thing that you, sorry, not Dan, I was going to ask you, what in fact is the thing that struck you most about the mayor's speech? Because he seemed to take responsibility at the beginning, but things changed dramatically.
Yeah, it was very surprising. It got off to a very typical start with apologizing to the women who accused him of sexual harassment, apologizing to his supporters, apologizing to the city. But then he became very defiant. He called it a lynch mob. He said he hadn't been given due process. He claimed there was a larger effort to try to get him out of office. And that's typically what you don't see in these types of speeches. Typically, you don't see politicians taking such a defiant stand, even as they're resigning.
And so, Dan, thanks, Brian. Thank you. So, Dan, about the settlement, talk a little bit about that, because people see it as a bit of a devil's bargain with the mayor. But how much of his legal fees will actually be covered by this settlement?
Well, it's right on the face of it, isn't it? And $98,000 at least in outside legal fees. But here's the interesting thing. Remember that even before this broke, Allison, the mayor and the city attorney's office had a very contentious relationship. Now, as part of the settlement, the city attorney is going to be defending him in the McCormick-Jackson lawsuit. So he's going to be their lawyers. The city attorney is going to be the mayor's lawyers going forward. If he does use outside counsel, and he will, to provide independent advice, it's capped at $98,000. After $98,000, it's all on the mayor's dime.
And what about the city? I mean, could the city stand to, how much do you think the city could stand to lose in case of other cases apart from the Irene McCormick-Jackson one?
Well, let's talk specifically about sexual harassment, because understand that the mayor is a supervisor, and therefore under California law, if they are found liable for sexual harassment, the city, as the mayor's employer, is automatically liable. So they are both in this together, except for punitive damages, by the way. If punitive damages are assessed, that could be against Mayor Filner himself, but again, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip, and it's not clear that the mayor has the resources to pay any significant judgment. In fact, it's the lack of resources, he said in his speech, that led him to take this deal and have the city defend him in these lawsuits.
Right. Now, Brian, that was a very sort of unpleasant political decision for the City Council to have to take. There were a lot of people at City Hall today who were testifying both for and against the recall. Some people were saying, why don't you let us vote him out instead of paying his legal fees to get him out? Yeah, why did they decide this was better than a recall? Yeah,
it was a very difficult political decision for the City Council, because on the one hand, they all have an interest in having a resolution to this. And I think all the City Council members, for both their personal political reasons as well as for the city as a whole, want a resolution. On the other hand, any deal that allows for some city money to be used defending Filner is going to be politically unpopular. And so City Council members were sort of stuck between, on the one hand, trying to resolve this issue, but realizing the only way they could resolve it to get Filner to resign voluntarily is to give him something to try to get him out the door.
Okay. Might this decision have some political repercussions for some council members who may end up running for mayor to fill the vacancy?
Yes, definitely. I think if any of the city council members run in the special election to follow, that this will be a big issue, because there will be a lot of criticism of them for doing that. But I think long term, it won't be that big of an issue. I mean, I think that eventually, 3 or 4 years from now, when a lot of these city council members are running for re-election, that their voters aren't going going to remember any of this. They're just going to remember that Filner resigned. But short term, I think it could be a real problem for any of the city council members who are running for office.
And Dan, what do you think about Jan Goldsmith's performance in this? I mean, was that a good deal that was worked out? Do you think the best the city could accomplish?
Well, it was probably the best the city could accomplish. Understand that Bob Filner had outstanding legal representation, and what the city was trying to do was to get out of this as inexpensively as possible. And looking at the terms of the deal and the kinds of things that are excluded, Allison, the city and Bob Filner did pretty well. It seems like a pretty fair agreement. And understand, Allison, that Bob Filner defiantly said, I never sexually harassed anyone. So how could he have apologized for all of these things? It's actually reconcilable. Inappropriate behavior is not sexual harassment. And as this case goes forwards, and understand mediation continues with Irene McCormick Jackson, we'll see whether Bob Filner is right about never having legally sexually harassed anyone.
So what does this do for Gloria Allred? Because now, in fact, if she is suing for damages, it's the San Diego taxpayers that's going to be paying them. So how does that affect her strategy?
Well, the beat goes on with respect to the sexual harassment lawsuit. Understand, there is a hearing coming up on September 16th regarding the mayor's motion to get this out of San Diego County. Will the city agree with the mayor's attorneys that that's such a good idea? I have my doubts about that. But the lawsuit is going to go forward. And understand, here's another important thing that Jan Goldsmith said. He said the mediation process is continuing, even with Gloria Allred. So it is possible, Allison, that we may get this legal action that Irene McCormick Jackson settled after all. It'll just take a little time.
What is your, if you were a betting man, bet that there might be many other cases coming out of the woodwork?
Well, some of the allegations, frankly, and I won't go into specifics, don't rise to the level of legally actionable sexual harassment for a number of reasons. Part of it is the nature of the conduct is not sufficiently severe or pervasive, which is what you need for sexual harassment. Some of them, statute limitations or the time limitation for bringing them is long past. Some of them you don't involve employees, and there are special rules that apply to those. So there will probably be at least one or two, because one already has been filed with the State Anti-Discrimination Agency. But as far as dozens and dozens of these things, I don't see it. It'll be a handful at most, in my judgment, as far as lawsuits that come out of sexual harassment behavior. Now, understand, there are a whole bunch of other things of which the mayor is accused, and we may yet see lawsuits about those things.
Well, San Diegans have seen huge legal fees paid in the pension debacle, so this may, in fact, not rise to that level.
It may end up being a very good bargain with respect to the amount of money that's involved, but understand, it costs money to have the very fine attorneys at the city attorney's office working for the mayor as well, in a manner of speaking. And that's a cost that the city, in agreeing to defend Bob Filner through the city attorney's office, has decided to incur itself.
So, Brian, what is the next step? That seems to be the message today. It's time to move forward.
Yeah, well, they're going to have a special election, probably sometime in November, and it'll be interesting to see how many candidates actually choose to run, whether the establishment interest groups are able to coalesce around a couple of candidates, or whether we see a free-for-all where we have 5 or 6 major candidates all vying for the mayor's position.
It's only 3 months, so perhaps it's not a lot of time for a candidate with less name recognition to get enough publicity to run it and stand a chance.
Yes, it's a very short time, not just to run a campaign, but also to raise money. So a lot of these prospective candidates are now going through the calculation whether they'll be able to have enough money to run an effective campaign in 3 months, and and that may winnow the field down to just a few.
Okay. One of the comments made today by Councilwoman Marty Emerald was that this is not a time for celebration. Do you think that San Diego is going to heed those words?
I think so, because I don't think anybody got everything they wanted in this, both Filner supporters and Filner opponents. And I think in many ways Marty Emerald did a better job of making the case for Bob Filner than Bob Filner did himself in his concession speech. And I think I think that for a lot of people, they're just now just going to look forward to the special election.
Okay, thank you very much. We have days and weeks and months more to analyze this, so thank you very much. Brian Adams of San Diego State University and Dan Eaton, legal analyst. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Mayor Filner's office has been under a cloud since these claims of sexual harassment came out in July, but for the first-term mayor, controversy was never new or far away. Our John Rossman has this look back.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, our next mayor,
Bob Filner! Former Congressman Bob Filner became San Diego's first Democratic mayor in nearly 30 years.
I think we mark a new day for the beginning of our city. After nearly a decade of crises and cutbacks, we finally have a chance to look ahead
begin planning for a brighter future.
In his first month, he stopped prosecuting medical marijuana violations. As a result, controversial marijuana dispensaries were left open to run.
The city attorney is our attorney, so we can direct him on things. If the city council and the mayor agree that he should not be using this zoning stuff, to persecute people, then we can say that to him, and he can't do it.
During those beginning months, Filner also publicly and fiercely argued with City Council President Todd Gloria and City Attorney Jan Goldsmith. One argument centered on a hotel fee negotiation between the city and Tourism Marketing District. The 3-month debate crisscrossed city meetings and court hearings.
Right now, they are not living up to the agreement. They have not given the 5%. They say they're not intending to do it. They said you're going to get the leftovers. I want that money because it's so important to our community to give the money off the top. And when they do that, the agreement says they'll get the rest of their money.
He made Plaza de Panama more pedestrian-friendly by ripping out 60 parking spots and, through an emergency finding, battled the stench of bird poo long plaguing La Jolla.
And when I became mayor, they said it would take about 2 years to get the permits to deal with this. And I said, well, that's not acceptable.
One of his ongoing initiatives was strengthening San Diego's relationship with its southern neighbor. He opened an office in Tijuana and made national news with an attempted, but failed, bid to co-host a cross-border Summer Olympics. May marked a significant month for the mayor. He leased downtown office space for 2 city departments, moving both down the street. The cheaper rent ended up saving the city $15.8 million. He also brokered an agreement between 6 unions that represent the city employees. The 5-year deal is estimated to save the city $25 million alone in its first year. But in July, KPBS broke news of sexual harassment allegations leveled at Mayor Filner. His aggressive agenda and crusade to shake up City Hall hit a wall. He dug in and battled to keep his position, but it was not enough. Under piling evidence, Mayor Filner resigned, sealing a legacy of polarizing politics, ambition, and scandal.
And we're moving us forward. Thank you so much.
KPBS reporter John Rossman. Our Metro reporter Sandia Dirks has been following this story from the beginning and spoke to one of the first women to accuse Filner of sexual misconduct. She was in council chambers all afternoon and joins us now from the news center. So, Sandia, when the mayor gave his resignation speech, we heard his supporters cheering him on in the background. But before the council vote, there was a lot of divided public comments. Tell us about the overall mood in the chambers.
Well, it was very emotional. There was a lot of people there who felt very, very deeply about the mayor. And there were some victims who had come forward to allege the mayor of sexual harassment, including Laura Fink, the woman that I talked to, the second woman to come forward. Here's what she said.
Without the mayor's resignation, our city will continue to be paralyzed by this scandal. Progress will be arrested, and our focus will continue to be monopolized by this dark chapter in our history.
And she really was. She was crying up there. And there were several other people who reached that level of emotion, including Mayor Filner supporters, those who feel that he was a progressive voice who spoke for the little guy, and now they feel like their champion is gone. One of those is Enrique Morones. He's an activist, and he says that he stands by the mayor because of his legacy of civil rights work.
We have seen an overwhelming majority of San Diegans tired of this circus of the public execution that is taking place. We demand due process for the mayor as well as the accusers.
And, you had just so much emotion, so many people from different sides, so many people who feel like they have a vested stake in this. And there were also Filner supporters or previous Filner supporters who came forward and said, look, this isn't how we should do this. There's a recall campaign. It's underway. We should really give the recall campaign and the democratic process a chance to play out rather than having this kind of backroom deal control the day. One of those who made that point was Joan Raymond.
The people deserve a transparent resolution that is not a backroom political deal. If the people want to recall Mayor Filner, so be it. Let the people vote.
Just big emotions all around, Dwayne.
And Sandy, how did the mood change after Filner's nearly 15-minute speech? I know some of the council said it was not a time for celebration.
No, indeed, it was not a time for a celebration. It was definitely an exhausting and emotional day. I mean, the mayor also cried when he spoke. I think everyone felt this sort of sense of, well, what now, and also what just happened. We've been through this tumultuous summer of scandal. It's been exhausting. It's been a roller coaster. And it's sort of hard to understand everything that has gone on in San Diego over the last few months. But I think there is a sense of kind of sad relief that maybe we can move forward, and we will see what happens next.
KPBS Metro reporter Sandia Dirks. And if you're just joining us, recapping our top story tonight, Mayor Bob Filner has resigned effective the end of the month, August 30th. Filner has been accused of sexual misconduct by 18 women in a speech at City Hall. The mayor first appeared somber, but then defiant. His resignation was part of a deal struck with city council members. The city will pay for and provide his defense against a lawsuit filed by his former aide and claims by other city employees or contractors. Now, the deal allows him to hire his own lawyer or lawyers at the city's expense, but the dollar amount is capped at $98,000. He steps down next Friday at 5 p.m. You can find all of our coverage of this story online at kpbs.org/news/Filner. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a good weekend.